Abarera Legos Ram Ori Banish C10 Demonio Dinaja 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 Abarera Legos Ram Ori Banish C Abarera Legos Ram Ori Banish C10 Demonio Dinaja 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 Abarera Legos Ram Abarera Legos Ram Ori Banish C10 Demonio Dinaja Abarera Legos Ram Abarera, Legos, Ram, Ori, C10, Demonio, Dinaja, 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 Abarera, Legos, Ram, Ori, C10, Demonio,
Oh, but
Dinaja, Abarera, Legos, Ram, Ori,
all right, everybody. Wait for the smoke to go. There we go. Hey, look, it's us, people. How's
Them,
everybody
they.
going? How's everybody doing? Welcome to Apocrypha, Voices of the Hidden, the Occult podcast. All right. I am Adius Dade. And below us down here, is Black Witch Dirah. So, how's it going, Dirah?
Yeah, pretty good, thank you.
Excellent,
Pretty good.
excellent. So we're going to be getting into the interview portion of with her here in a moment. We're going to fly through this as quickly as possible. Mystic is going to do his weekly read. Y'all love that. You love him more than you love me, assholes. But it's okay.
Duh.
I love you just the same. Right. So go ahead, Mystic. You said so. What deck you got for us?
So this is deck like what 437? I don't know. Some shit like that.
Didn't you say it was like 600 decks now?
No,
No.
like only 400 and some, like 420.
Tyra's
So
got this look
this
on her face like, yeah, right. No, he's not joking. He's got like
I'm not
400
kidding.
and something
It's
decks.
it's a problem for real. It's a problem. I mean, it really is a problem. I probably would have a much nicer vehicle and a lot more spending money. But anyway, this week I'm actually using a deck. It's pretty cute. It's called Monster Garden. It's an Oracle deck. I don't really do a whole lot of Oracle decks, but I did want to do this one because this is actually, I'm going to say it's a friend of mine. It's not somebody I actually know, but a streamer I found a long time ago, just looking around and found one person streaming with one person in the group. Has been consistently doing this now for a couple years. Lives in Japan and made this game on Steam, and it's called Monster Garden. I can't figure this shit out, but it's cute. So Monster Garden, the game, it's a made by one person, and these cards are based off of that. And yeah, I wish I could tell you what the game was about because I don't understand it, but it's cute. So anyway, in this game, in this deck, I should say, it's called the Monster Garden Oracle deck, pink back, not reversible. So if it's upside down, it's upside down because it's upside down unless you're hanging from the ceiling, so it wouldn't be the same. It's interestingly bordered because again, I'm gonna make sure Scarlett's not in here because she yells at me every time I talk about borders. Well, you know what that means, right? I do. I have problems with boundaries, but so they're bordered deck. But each of the cards is kind of like a little part of the game. So you go look at the game. Pretty cool. Again, it's called Monster Garden. So we're gonna pull a couple of cards. It's very. I have not read any of the meanings. The gentleman that made this deck is Zach. His stream is Zach W, I think. But does like I said, in Japan, does some really weird times for us. But anyway, but they're all positive and kind of like uplifting versions of monsters, and that's one of the things I like about this particular one. I really almost went with the Goracle tonight, but then I figured I can't show half of the cards on stream without getting banned, so I decided to go with the nicer deck. So
Appreciate that. Thank
so
you.
we're gonna get 3 cards here. Card 1, Universe. So in the game, this would represent one part of the game or a monster, a little bit like Dig Dug, right? Our second card is the Observer, and I'll put them back up when we talk through them. Probably shouldn't be using my middle finger there, huh? And Nourishment, right? Nourishment. Ooh. And so as we normally do when we do our reads, we do them really quickly, and we talk about what's the energy kind of coming up for the next week, right? So if you're talking about the universe, and to me, this would be something like the world. On the card, it's everything is nothing. It reminded me of something we talked about before we started the show, and I meant to say it, and then I just lost it, which is we talked about the egregore a little bit, right? And I'm sure that'll come up again. But this idea that if you think enough something, or you put enough energy into something, or believe enough in something, then it exists. As in, like the Kabbalions, the world is mental, or the world of tarot, which is everything has come together, everything is everything, but everything is nothing all at the same time. And it exists because it's real to you, and then you go into what is real. But with the universe energy, that's that whole embodiment of all of the things that are around you are there for a reason, and you need to figure out what those reasons are. And then if you can't, put it aside, move on, come back to it, but pay attention to it. Next week, there's something that's going to be revealed to us. Our next one is Observer. So this is an easy card to understand, right? On the card, it says asking questions, right? You want to figure out what's going on around you. You don't just look. You ask yourself questions. What does that mean? When did this happen? You go outside when you do the augurs, which is the 12 days after Christmas, where you pull the tarot cards to kind of portend for the year, right? And you don't just sit and listen to what's going on around. You have to ask yourself the questions. What does it mean? The wind is extremely still today while I'm doing this reading. Does that mean that something's just not going to happen? Or does that mean we're having a calm before the storm? So in the next week or so, pay attention and start asking questions about the things around you so you can figure out what you're going with the universe. And then lastly is nourishment. So we need to bring in some nourishment into the things that we're doing. So at the bottom, I know you probably can't read it, but it's every monster's favorite fruit, right? And by the way, in the Monster Garden, the monsters aren't there to hurt you. That's a part of the process, part of the game. And so nourishment is seeking out the things that nourish you, that you want. Don't settle for, watermelon if you really like grapes. I don't know. That sounded really stupid, but you get the point, right? When you're doing and looking for nourishment, whether it's soul nourishment, whether it's spiritual, whether it's food, you need to spend some time in your universe asking the questions about the things that are around you to learn more, but also taking nourishment for what it is you need. If you need time alone, you take time alone. If you need time with social, you get time with social. If you want to go talk about something, find somebody to talk about something. But you need to nourish that part of you. I definitely have not been doing enough of that. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Yeah, definitely.
These are
Right.
cute cards.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan
I
of the
love
artwork.
them.
Like,
I'm not a fan of your face.
I mean, most people aren't, but that's okay.
Oh, shut up. But you seriously though, like it's very different, obviously, than any other deck I have. But it goes along with the game and the process. And like I said, I can't. I don't,
Yeah, you
I
can
don't
definitely
think
tell
it's very
it
neat.
goes along with the game. Like that, you can see that clear as day. It's like that 8/16-bit, whatever the hell it is, type of artwork. So,
Oh,
all right.
wait, what'd you
So-
say? You said 16-bit?
Is it
I
16-bit
just-
or 8?
I just happen to have the 8-bit tarot right here. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. It's a problem. I said so.
Yeah. So, Dirah, thank you for being patient. It looked like you were kind of getting into it though. Like there's some of the stuff he was saying, you're like, all right, I can vibe with that.
Yeah, no, when I saw the universe card, I was like, well, that's the world. So it was funny to like hear you say that back as well.
Yeah. And a lot of people like I think when they see the universe, it's like that expansion thing. But to me, the universe is the tiny part of life, right? Where the world is bringing everything out and right back together.
Definitely.
Sorry, trying to keep up with chat.
All right. So I know we kind of talked about this a little bit before we kind of jumped in here and we started. So for those that don't know that are in the chat, right? I mean, I posted this interview like everyone's response was, "Oh yeah, we love our videos." So yes, so my viewers are apparently a part of your fan base. So there you go. But for those that don't know, how Dirah, how about you explain who you are and what you do, so I don't mess it up.
So, I am a Luciferian witch of the left-hand path. So what that means is that I seek my growth in all areas of my life, from the idea that, Lucifer is the light bringer, the bringer of wisdom, knowledge, illumination, to hopefully become as elevated as possible in this life. And yeah, I mean, what that, obviously there's kind of like, there's a lot of aspects to what I do. So, I do a lot of goetic magic. That's been kind of at like the forefront of my practice for some years now. I will, but then again, that's not all I do. I work with, sort of outside of this left hand path like area of my life. It's like, I also work with Santa Mote, and I've started to venture a little bit more into like ancestral work as well. And what you find is like whoever you kind of go to for like what you need to know and what you need to work on, it's all kind of the same message, just like different ways of going about it. But I've always felt drawn to the sort of chthonic stuff, the darker stuff. It's just what aligns with me really well. And yeah, I mean, it's absolutely changed my life.
That's definitely a big part of it. Like that last part, changing your life. I think when I first started working with the Infernals, at least that's my preferred phrase.
Mm.
It definitely came out as like when you ask for something, it's like, "Are you sure?" And you're like, "Yes." Are you sure? Because you're not gonna like the ride.
Mm.
And what I appreciate about the Infernals is that tear it all down and then aspect of work.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. It's like the tower card, right? It's knocking everything down because it's built on crappy foundations. Um, and it's all of like your established patterns and the ways in which you're enslaved, essentially, and breaking all of that down so it can be rebuilt into something that's more practical and stronger and benefits you.
exactly. So, I'm curious, where did your journey on this start? Like, so did you like start with like, I like saying most of us, but I don't know, like that's not necessarily true. A lot of us, we kind of started with like, Wicca, folk magic, and the fairy magic, kind of kept escalating. Like, similar with you?
Yeah, somewhat. So, I've always had um, I've always had abilities and not understood what they were. It's just like sometimes like I just knew things, or sometimes like I remember like growing up, I was really like super vulnerable to spiritual attack, especially while I was asleep. Um, because like what I didn't know was that I was like naturally open to this stuff. And yeah, I remember just being absolutely terrified of demons. And anything like satanic or related to the occult and things like that. But at the same time, being so interested and drawn to it, it was such a weird kind of um paradox. And yeah, so I went through a really difficult time and was sort of just looking, I think, for something I could do to help myself. And um, yeah, obviously, like the first thing most people find it is Wicca, right? So I get all of these like Wicca books for Christmas, and I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, like. And then like there were things where it was just like things that I would be told by this belief system that I just take as fact, because it's like, okay, well, that's what it says, like regardless of whether I kind of agreed with it or not. It was just like, okay, well, that's just like how things are. But like that didn't last very long at all, because I think of just like the nature of who I am, and it only took me about a year to start working with the infernal. Um and yeah, I think I have this like weird pattern that happens in my life where every sort of 6 months or so, my life seems to do a total 180 that's motivated by some sort of like disaster. Well, in my eyes anyway, at the time, in my sort of ego's perspective on it, it's like, oh my God, like this like terrible thing has happened. And what it does is it forces me to completely redirect my life. And it was one of those moments that I think brought me to this path. I mean, I was already working with Santa Mote at that point, and I feel like that kind of aligned me with this sort of like death energy already. Um, and the darker side of, I suppose, spirituality. And yeah, I don't know, like I had something really terrible happen, and I think I just felt so disempowered and so victimized by it. And it's almost like on a soul level, I was like, no, this is not how we're supposed to feel about this and about things that happen. Like, this is not who we are. And yeah, I feel like we, like, spiritually, and like what we're drawn to is led so much more by like our unconscious than it is a conscious decision. Like, so much more. So yeah, I ended up getting into the demonology, and that's been my life for about the past 5 years or so.
Do you
Nice.
feel like that cycle has changed now, like that 6 month up and down where you're 180, or is that still a thing?
Uh,
It's still a thing, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, a little bit, but um, it's like the realization and the acceptance that I create a lot of it. I create these circumstances for myself, and most of the time it's because I'm not following my true will. I'm following some sort of like lower urge, like to meet some sort of need, or like perceived need, something that I
Yeah.
don't really. And it's usually motivated by something just really carnal. And yeah, no, like what's been revealed to me of late is that um, I've made a lot of decisions in my life that brought about things that weren't supposed to happen, but I forced it. Like, I forced my will upon it. I was so sure that like this is what I wanted, and you know, I do all the spells and all the magic to like bring it about. And this is exactly, it echoes exactly what you said earlier. Like, you know, are you sure this is what you want? I'd be like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here, am I?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like kind of fucked myself up in a lot of ways, and you know, would it's like, you know, they talk about you know, the term like rock bottom, right? I feel
Mhm.
like I scraped along the bottom for a while because I just make this decision after decision, and it was all just like just based on wounds, essentially. And it's kind of like now I'm like trying to act from a place that's not from a place of like a victim and a place of like a wounded person, because that seems what's like makes my life go in these like crazy like 180 directions.
Definitely. I mean, I think what I would like to add on top of that is something Mystic said. I think, oh God, this must have been months ago, maybe a couple
Oh,
years
shit.
ago. But I completely agree with it. There,
Oh
there
shit.
are
It's really bad.
there are no bad decisions or right decisions. There's only choices and consequences. And we associate consequence with something negative, but a consequence is either something favorable or unfavorable in our perspective, right? And that's how we define a good decision and a bad decision. But at the end of the day, the choices that we make are lessons that we put ourselves through. And so every choice we make is just an opportunity to learn something else about ourselves. So sounds like you're choosing a really rough path for yourself, but
I'm trying to make it easier now, but like I mean, what comes of these things though? Like it's like I fall hard, but I bounce back really fast and really like effectively. It's like spiritual alchemy, essentially. Like I'm really good at alchemizing. Um, so it's like it's almost if like I know like on an unconscious level that I can deal with it. Um, but it is not necessary to keep just like perpetuating suffering, basically. So yeah, that's just something I'm really trying to work on at the moment.
I mean, some of us are, designed just to kind of suffer through things. I mean, it sucks to a certain degree, but there's really nothing wrong with it. Outside of not wanting to suffer more and still suffering more because of the choices we make. But it's
Well,
kind
we're
of
good at suffering, right? Like we're good at
well,
feeling
yeah.
bad about something, but then making the choice to turn it into something. This is alchemy, right? We want to turn it into gold. We want to turn that. The worse the further down you are, the more gold you're going to get when you do that. That what is it? The polarity alchemy of where you do the quantum switch, right? Because you can go between two extremes really fast is the idea. So if I'm going to make good gold, then I'm gonna have to sink pretty low to get
Mhm.
that reflective energy back out. And I don't necessarily believe that specifically, because to me, most of my spiritual life has been trying to find I hate balance. That's not the word I look for, but
Well, I think.
that
Go
that
ahead.
puzzle pieces that fit together the right way for you, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think also like the idea and the concept of being happy as well. I mean, happiness. I actually had somebody ask me recently, like, "Are you happy?" And I'm like, "No," and I don't want to be. Because I associate, I mean, at least for myself, I mean, I associate happiness with a sedentary lifestyle and being content in the situation that you're in. And being sedentary and content means that you stop moving forward. And I believe that happiness comes in small doses. It's something that's given to you here and there, and it's something that you need to learn to enjoy in the moment that when it's presented to you. But beyond that, no, I don't want to be happy. I don't want to be content because I want to keep moving. I want to keep grinding. I want to keep growing and becoming better. And if I'm happy with the way things are, that means I don't want them to change. So, change is an important aspect of growth and moving forward. So, I think this idea of, trying to find or put ourselves in a position where we're generally happy, I think it's a fallacy. Like, I mean, it's not to say that there aren't people that are happy, things like that, but I don't think we're supposed to live in happiness. It's something we are supposed to appreciate when those moments happen where we do actually smile and we do actually laugh. It makes it more special. I mean,
Totally.
yeah.
I don't think we're meant to live in any one specific state at all. Like, that's not what life is. Like, that's not what we're here for. And like you said, like, how are you gonna like truly appreciate happiness if you're happy like all the time?
You can't appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'll
So-
disagree with that just a little bit real quick before we go on.
Go for it. I knew it was coming.
And so agree. Well, actually, I shouldn't say disagree because I always waffle on that. I think for the most part, all of that makes sense, except for I do believe there are some people that just have a lot of dopamine and serotonin in their brain, and they really just can be happy and it works for them. So right, it's like that. I don't think you have to experience the negativity or some lowness to appreciate happiness. Some people are more natural at it in some cases, but I think everybody's needs to be able to do what they do and be able to recognize that piece of it. Like, in other words, I think what happens a lot in life in general, in my observations and self experience, has been oftentimes when people are excessively happy, it's not true happiness. But I do think there are some that are. Like, I do think some people naturally, and it's usually the people that are mean because they're just really happy with themselves, right? They're so happy with themselves, like F you.
Right. And for those that can't like feel happiness that way, there's always opiates. So you can always go that route. Drugs. Just get drugs. Be happy. I'm joking. YouTube gods. It was a joke. Don't ban me. For some reason, people just can't handle dark humor these days. Looks like you're going to say something. You're going to say something?
Oh, no, I wasn't.
Oh, okay. That's why I stopped, because it looked like, I was like, oh. Because there is a slight delay, like when you kind of start talking. Like, so I just wanted to give you a second. All right. So let's talk about your businesses here for a second. Okay. Because you got a lot of them. Like, I don't think I've ever seen one person with so many websites. Like, when I shot Mystic, your information, I think there's easily, 5 different websites that I had to shoot to you? Something like that?
Yeah, there's quite a few on there, and there's if work hadn't been so crazy this week, there's quite a few things on here I would love to talk about sometime. Some really very, very interesting and meaningful items on here that look pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna go grab some tissue real quick. I'll be right back.
Go for it.
I got a snotty nose.
You got your Etsy shop, right?
Yeah.
So let's start there. What kind of things are you like throwing up on Etsy?
So my Etsy shop is like my physical product. So like, I like to make candles, oils, like devotional for like devotional purposes, and then I'll have a few spell candles on there. So yeah, it's basically just like a little candle shop, really. Yeah, I started doing that probably about 2.5 years ago. And yeah, no, I'm really glad I did it because it's so convenient, because like you can just make your own candles, like you have to buy them all the time. Yeah, that's what the Etsy shop's about. It's just like I find it's just like a really convenient way to sell your items, really, and to get more, like, I feel like if you have just in my personal experience, I just put in products on my website. It's like only people that visit my website are going to see that, but you type something in on Etsy and it comes up. So I feel like it's just like a good good thing to use for like promotional things as well.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, I've never had an Etsy shop, so, but I kind of saw that and it looked kind of interesting. A lot of the stuff on there. So I wanted to bring that up. So it looks like the two things that you're pushing the most, though, right? So you've got this academy,
Mhm.
right? So what's the name for it again?
So it's called the Dark Arts Academy.
Okay.
We so it's a collaboration. So at the beginning of 2023, I had a bit of a business crisis where I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I was like, this is just like I'm burnt all the time because my main thing was like spell services, and it just didn't feel authentic because I would firstly like just neglect my own practice and just like focus on do like because this has got to get done for this person because they've paid me to do this, and it's like, and it was also a thing where I was sort of just have to cough. It was also a thing as well that like I felt like I was just enabling people's bullshit,
Mm-hmm.
like, and people's patterns and people's wounds, and I was just like, I'm just like, I'm not being of service here, I'm being of disservice, and it doesn't feel right. And I was like, what do I really want to do? I was like, I kind of want to teach. I kind of want to go more into educational stuff so that, people can find out stuff for themselves and they can learn for themselves. And, if they want to address a situation with magic, they can do it and get the results, and whether that's favorable or unfavorable, it's like they're going to learn for themselves. So um but then again, like, not everyone is meant to be doing this, but like
Mm-hmm.
when you do this kind of thing, like a lot of people want to know how you do it, and some people are already kind of in it and need more guidance. So yeah, I had someone message me who's now become a dear friend and sort of an unofficial business partner, someone called Adeline, and she said, look, we did a few like previous collaborations together, like we did a podcast and we did like a group ritual and things like that, and she said to me, okay, I've just had this idea, I'd really like to start like an online space that's not like on Patreon or anything like that, like it's independent, somewhere where we can just upload content and teach people this stuff. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And it was literally just like, it essentially saved my business because it got to the point where I was like, do I just close up because I
Mm-hmm.
can't keep, it's killing me. So yeah, that we've been doing that for about 9-10 months now, and yeah, it's been great. It's so we started off by covering like a different topic every month. So like one month we'd go into protections, and then it might be like wealth magic, and then it might be like necromancy and things like that. Now we've taken, but it kind of got to the point where we were like, what are we going to cover next month? Because we've done a lot. Like, we're going to run out of stuff. So approach now where we're just a little bit more fluid, a little bit more like creative liberty. We teach what we feel inclined to.
Mm-hmm.
So far this month, what have I done so far? Oh yes, I made quite a bit of content on making pacts, because there's a lot of like misinformation about
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. And then I did something completely different and unrelated to that, and did a kind of sort of tutorial on some healing work with Santa Mate, and I think we're enjoying this format a lot more, where things are a bit just
More
more
freeform.
intuitive. Yeah, and I think we want to, like, our plans moving forward with it are, because what we've noticed is that some people, or a lot of people that join, they they kind of they want the content, they want to learn how to do things, and then they dip, and it's not so much about like, oh no, like we're losing members. It's not that. It's more so that like, are we doing people a disservice by sort of just showing them how to do something, and they go and they don't really might not have the full knowledge because, you know, they don't want to pursue that because they just want results. So we want to create an option, at least, for it to be more immersive and to be more of a journey, so that, you know, it's not just about this sort of like lower magic where you're trying to just change your life externally, but also, you know, more sort of higher magic. So, you know, like evolving, you know. So figure our plans currently, but yeah, no, it's kind of I'd say it's definitely like the main focus for me, the academy. I'd say it's what I'm doing the most. And yeah, we've built a really wonderful community.
Yeah, education in the occult is a pain in the ass. As somebody that has worked in the in international education for 16 years, what makes people stick to an educational system is the standardization of the information that's being provided. So when I say worked in education, I used to teach English to people in like Russia, the Ukraine, China, like all of these places. And there's one thing that all of the books have in common, whether you go with Cambridge University Press, Oxford University Press, and by the way, you guys have a stranglehold on the ESL market, right? Like I think like Peterson is like the only one from the U.S. Everything else is British. But even though English isn't something that necessarily needs to be standardized, they managed to create a standardized system which has levels, and inside of each level you learn a little bit more about, you know, a specific thing inside of it. Now, I've always loved the idea of occult education, but the problem is standardizing the occult. How the fuck do you do it? Because the thing is there's so much shit out there, right? On all sides of it. Like, it's just a pain in the ass. Now, can it be done? Yes, it can be done. I mean, I've worked on curriculums and things like, because I was working with a couple of people with the idea of opening up kind of like a cult university, so to speak. You know, something like an online Hogwarts, if you will. You know, with actual like classes with more than one person, you know. So like like an online classroom, Zoom meeting, you know, 20, 30 people, and having a progression system. So the progression system needs to exist. And this is going to sound very bad, but I'm just being completely honest. The progression system in giving information in small bites needs to exist for people to keep coming back. That's how you alleviate the problem of people learning what they want to learn and then leaving, because they never feel like they fully learned what they want to learn, so they need to keep going forward. So they keep paying to keep taking the classes, right? That's the whole point behind standardization, right? Is to keep that progression little by little. So that way, it's kind of like a TV show, like when you're watching like a really good TV show and they end an episode on a cliffhanger, you're like, motherfucker, like, you know, I want to know what happens. So like you wait until next week and that next episode comes out to see what happens, because you want to see what happens. If that episode finishes and it ends on a nice note, what the hell reason you have to watch next week? You know, it's the same idea.
Totally. It plays into psychology so much, actually, about like our reward systems, and how like if we always know what we're going to get and we always know what the result is going to be, we're less likely to perform the desired behavior in order to get it. You know, it's like you know, they in I can't remember the guy's name, but in his like experiment on pigeons or something, like he kind of altered the reward system where, like, you know, sometimes they get fed and sometimes they wouldn't, and it was like, you know, basically conditioning these pigeons to like behave in a. So yeah, it plays into psychology a lot.
Well, I mean, the methodology used in most teaching formats, regardless of what you're teaching, is the triple P method, right? So it's present, practice, produce, right? So you present the information at the beginning, you provide an opportunity for the student to practice what it is that you presented, and then by the end of that lesson, they need to be able to produce that microcosm of what you've showed them, right? And producing in smaller amounts is significantly easier than producing a large result, right? So if you're doing energy work, right, present the information as how energy works, how to manipulate energy, right? And then as a small lesson to practice that, create kind of like a hot spot between hands, right? You're not throwing fireballs, you're not doing anything crazy or stupid. Not that you can actually throw fireballs, people. Don't think that you can do that. It's not Hollywood. That's not what I'm getting at. But it gives people kind of like a taste of like, okay, I can feel the energy, I can sense it, it's there, and then they want to continue. Now what can I do? Right? But again, the problem that you run into is the amount of people that are going to shit on you for trying to standardize the occult because there's so much in it. I really respect like what you're doing. Like I said, I tried to do it, right? But even within the group of people that were willing to do it, there were so many disagreements on how to standardize and create a curriculum that would function because everyone thought that something else needed to be taught. And it's like, we can't do this. If at every single turn we're going to argue about every little thing and how it's done, we can't do this. We're never going to get it off the ground. I mean, I have easily 13 different curriculums that I've written out, that I've gone through, that I have, all set up and everything like that. But, without other people, I'm not going to run an occult university by myself. Not really interested, But I think it's a really cool thing that you're doing that. So the second thing that you're doing that sounds like a bit of a spin-off, because you had mentioned wealth magic, right? So then you have that other aspect, which is business magic specifically, right? So how did that come about?
So yeah, this was another idea that myself and Evelyn came up with. So it was, we thought about like, who we are and what we do. We are practitioners who have, or occultists who have basically built a business on their craft. And then it was kind of the idea, like, why don't we show people not necessarily how to do what we've done, because, that wouldn't be good for, that wouldn't be like beneficial, but just like, their businesses, they don't have to, relate to anything remotely like occult related. But just showing people how to apply this stuff in that area of their life and get results, essentially.
Definitely. I mean, you're the complete opposite to me. Like, I've had many people reach out to me and ask me questions about Baphomet, about working with Baphomet, because I'm one of the very few people, I think, online that I'm a dedicant of Baphomet, meaning like I don't believe that Baphomet is just a linguistic misunderstanding or a representation, but an actual entity. And I've had so many people say, well, how do you work with Baphomet? How do you get started? It's like, feel it out. Just feel it out. I don't share my rituals. I don't show how I do my rituals. That's me. It's very personal, right? I will never like explain to people like the step-by-step process that I go through for me for a ritual. Also, what I'm trying to get out of a ritual isn't what other people might be trying to get out of a ritual. So the way that I go about it might not work for what they're trying to get out of it. And so I'm very much the opposite in the sense that figure it out, feel it, which I guess is another reason why it would be a really bad idea if I had a school like dedicated to teaching the occult, because students would ask me questions, but figure it out.
Yeah. It does come down to that though, because sometimes like, you get people that like my experience with like running the academy has been amazing for the most part, but you also do get people who like want you that they don't want to figure it out for themselves at all. That they want you to answer every single little stupid question. And it just got to the point where I got so frustrated with like one particular person because I kept telling her that like she had no previous experience in the occult, in working with the infernal or anything, and and she wanted to do all this like really crazy advanced shit. Like she was determined to do it, and I was just like, slow the fuck down. You are going to mess yourself up. And I was just like, let's look at the basics. Let's look at your protections and how to consecrate things and like all the like really foundational basic stuff that you need to have down first of all. And she was like, no, it's just going to take too long. I was just like, do you know what then? Fuck around and find out, because you're not my responsibility. You're not my child. Like, I really value like safeguarding. I really do, because there are people who, if I get an inquiry from someone and they tell me they've got psychosis or schizophrenia, I'll be no, I'm not buying. I'm not going to enable your mental illness. I'm not going to perpetuate any kind of delusions that you have. I'm really hot on the safeguarding stuff. But if someone is a fool, like that is their problem. That is not my responsibility. So it did just get to the point I was like, fuck around, find out. I'm done. I've told you how to do this safely and how to not mess yourself up. If you go forward and decide that that's what you want to do, like don't cry to me about it. Don't come and like you're freaked out because you've got some like disgusting astral sludge lingering around. Like,
well, I mean, sadly, a lot of people are like that, though. So I've had a few people say that the type of magic that I do is, I guess, what they considered high magic, in the sense that I don't ask for things physically. Like, I don't ask for money. I don't ask for a job. I don't like, that's dependent on me. Right now, can like the infernal like influence that stuff? Yeah, sure, they can if I ask them to. But what's the point? I can do it all by myself anyway. What I look for is the only thing I'll tell people, and I've said this many times on the show, when I go into a ritual, I go into the ritual with the idea in my head: what do you want to show me? What do I need to know? And sometimes I'll sit there for 20 minutes. Sometimes I'll sit there for 3 hours, before everything starts flowing. And it's that patience, like that wax on, wax off moment, right? Fucking Karate Kid shit, that people need to learn getting into the occult. It's a craft. It's something that you build on, right? Like, many people can teach you a bunch of shit, but at the end of the day, what really is the most powerful shit that you're going to do is the stuff that you've come up with yourself, the stuff that speaks to you. A lot of people don't want that.
yeah. Like, when people ask me for like book recommendations and stuff, like, yeah, I give them, but I just say, like, you'll find so much more knowledge and through your own experience, through the practical stuff, through the actual like learning essentially on the job. It's going to be so much more like the messages that you get and everything, like it's so much more prominent and potent than anything you're going to read in a book.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do think books hold their place. I mean, when people ask me which books, I generally name 3. The Satanic Bible, philosophically speaking, is not really religious, but philosophically speaking, I think it's an important thing for anyone on the left-hand path to read. Because I think in the terms of philosophy, it's on point, right? So, Satanic Bible. Then there is Black Arts. I'm actually looking at them right now. The Black Arts and the complete book of black magic and witchcraft, right? And most people can't stand those books because they read like encyclopedias. But that's what I like about it. It's more informational than trying to throw pictures in your face. Look how pretty my altar is. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I've like we've had somebody in the chat not too long ago that's in a situation where, you know, their parents are limiting what they can do because they don't believe in, you know, this person should be, you know, practicing witchcraft of any kind, right? And they're very strict and very, you know, on it. And one of the things I said, you don't need an actual altar. The altar's for you. Like the Infernal doesn't care what you put in front of you, if you have a statue of them or you don't have a statue of them. But they give a shit about is time and effort put in, the work that you put into it. So if you can't have a physical altar, turn your mind into an altar. Right? Use your mind as an altar, because everything that you put out, like I have an altar behind me, that's for me. The candles, the statues, the incense, that's for me. It's not for Baphomet. That's not for Belial. That's not for Lucifer. That's not for Lilith. It's for me. Right? They don't give a shit what's on my altar. Right? What they care about is that time and that effort and that work that's put into it. Right? And that's where people need, in my opinion, that's where they need to start. They need to start, turning their own mind into an altar and beginning to focus that worship through there. You know, that conjuring, that invocation through that aspect. And then they can move on to other shit.
Yeah, completely agree. When people ask me like what's the best offering I can give like to a demon, I say your time, because
can't get it back.
Exactly.
The ultimate sacrifice.
It's sacrifice, literally. Like everyone thinks that sacrifice means like this really like dark thing I have to do, this really dark fucked up thing. It's like, no, like time is such a powerful sacrifice. So yeah. And also sort of living by their message, sharing it when appropriate, you know, sort of being a walking example of your own craft and your own gnosis, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. Live by example. You know, that's the biggest thing you can do. Now, for as much as I hate to do this, because this has been a very short conversation, I've only had an hour for tonight, so I'm out of time. So, but I would definitely like to have you back on to extend the conversation.
Totally. This has been great. I'd love to.
Yeah, I know we didn't really get into a lot of the nitty gritty. There's a lot more stuff I want to pick your brain about. I wanted to get into the Satanic Temple stuff, the Church of Satan stuff, like, you know, the Luciferianism. I wanted to get into all of that. So definitely would like to have you on again if you're up for it.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to.
Excellent. All right. So everybody in the chat, thank you very much for being here. You know, this has been Apocrypha Voices, The Hidden, Adius Date, Mystic Salon, Black Witch Dirah. All right. Thank you all for being here. And as always, hail thy fucking self. We'll see you in the next one. Peace the fuck out.